I believe that mankind has looked at climate change in that same way, as if it were a fiction, as if pretending that climate change wasn't real would somehow make it go away. But I think we all know better than that now. Every week we're seeing new and undeniable climate events, evidence that accelerated climate change is here right now. Droughts are intensifying, our oceans are acidifying, with methane plumes rising up from the ocean floor. We are seeing extreme weather events and the West Antarctic and Greenland ice sheets melting at unprecedented rates, decades ahead of scientific projections. None of this is rhetoric, and none of it is hysteria. It is fact.
People are suffering. People are dying. Entire ecosystems are collapsing. We are in the beginning of a mass extinction, and all you can talk about is money and fairy tales of eternal economic growth.
Hello, my name is Reagan Lapeer, and this is my public service announcement. What you had just watched before this clip was a montage I put together of different natural disasters and effects that climate change has had on our environment and world in general. This video is kind of hard to watch because of many different factors. We pretty much see our world in a way that we never want to see it, ever. However, even though we don't want to see these things, it doesn't change the fact that it is still happening as I am making this video. I recently started becoming very invested in learning about climate change since my spring semester science class of last year. Some of the terms that I was hearing I had never heard of before, such as sustainability, for example. The most I could tell you about climate change was that it was getting warmer, but I didn't know anything about the way it affected our environment at all. I could not tell you anything about that, and I believe that that is the issue that we are having. Like myself, I know that there are so many individuals who have no clue about climate change, or if they do, it was about to the extent of the knowledge that I know, or knew at the time. When we don't know and educate ourselves on these issues that are surrounding us and hurting our environment, there's nothing that we can really do to help change it, and it actually will just end up depleting our environment even more. My goal for my public service announcement is to get out information to people who, like myself at the beginning of my spring semester last year, didn't know anything about it and now want to know more about it and help make a change. A few topics that I have been extremely interested in is the effects of landfills, the microplastics in our Great Lakes and in the oceans, and the dead zones in our oceans and in New Mexico. First of all, I had no clue that landfills were as awful for our environment as they are, and the fact that it is known that they are awful for our environment and are still a factor that is happening is extremely bizarre to me. Landfills are one of the biggest contributors to climate change and global warming in general. These garbage dumps release different types of carbon dioxide and are warming our airs and polluting our airs and just allowing trash to just be in our environment. When you dispose of your garbage and food and it ends up in a landfill, it produces a chemical gas called methane, which is almost more potent than greenhouse gases. So you might be wondering, well, that's all awful to hear, but what can I do instead of pushing my trash into the landfill? Well, I've got the answer for you. Instead of disposing of your trash into landfills, you can recycle. You can compost your trash and use it as soil or use it for other resources. And we are living in 2023. There is many more advanced technologies that allow us to dispose of our waste and other waste in landfills, unlike how there was many years ago when that was your only option. Next, we can talk about the dead zones in our oceans and in Mexico. A dead zone is an area in a body of water, most likely an ocean, that has little to no oxygen, meaning that no life can really survive in that area. So what does that mean for us? While dead zones themselves cannot directly affect humans, they do have certain ways that they can come around to being harmful for everybody. First off, no living organism can survive in a dead zone. Dead zones create much pollutant, which can eventually create runoff and lead into our sources of water that we need. Dead zones are initially our fault. They occur when the algae dies, but the algae dies when the water is contaminated by some sort of chemical that wasn't supposed to be in there in the first place. These chemicals are often produced and distributed by humans as well. Finally, we have the microplastics in the Great Lakes. As someone who lives in Michigan and likes to go on vacation and enjoy the Great Lakes of Michigan, hearing this news was so upsetting and just made me want to immediately try and do something to help. Microplastics are breakdown objects of larger pieces of plastics that end up in our environment and can be extremely harmful to our world and our animal life. When microplastics get into areas such as our Great Lakes, the sea life and everything involved in the water can consume it, and it is very harmful to their bodies. The easiest fix for this is to recycle, to not distribute trash into our waters, to make sure that you're mindful of what you're using. So, with all of this being said, I decided to think of something that could really benefit the point of my public service announcement. I'm going to school for child development and special education, so I'm currently working at a child development center in my hometown. Over the past couple weeks, we have been working and learning about climate change. The students that I teach range from the ages of 5 to 9, and I believe that when you start to teach children about these issues going on in our world young, it's extremely important and will ultimately help us in the long run. What people need to understand is educating your children at young ages about the issues going on in our world can be very helpful to our environment as well. Kids are people pleasers. They're going to want to do and help anything that they can to help our environment. So it's as simple as educating your child on the use of recycling and how you can properly reuse different items and all sorts of things regarding our world. So that's what I did. We worked on the importance of recycling. We talked about climate change. We watched videos. We did our activities with recycled paper. And I even had them keep in mind of everything that they were doing that was going to be sustainable for the earth. In terms of sustainability, I haven't always been the best. Before a few months ago, I wouldn't even have known what the word sustainability meant. With this being said, one of my biggest things that I want to strongly get across is I believe that knowledge is power. Learning about sustainability has allowed me to be much more aware of my use of certain things. I have been much more mindful on the resources that I have been using and my traveling time, my use of electricity, my ability to recycle, and to reuse different things around me has substantially helped my environment. My hopes in this public service announcement is just to get the attention of people like me who had no clue about this issue and now want to start making a change. I want everybody to understand that, like us, the world doesn't just last forever. We need to take care of it like we need to take care of ourselves. If you're not going to take the opportunity to take care of what we are living in, then we can't expect for a very bright future. Thank you for listening. If you're going to take anything away from this video, please have it to be more mindful of our world and our surroundings and to be sustainable in your everyday actions.